Caught red-handed. Rivals and other major recruiting sites were just exposed for taking players who commit to Big 12 schools and dropping their star ratings. Well, that doesn't matter. It does, for strength of schedule. That's how the SEC built this. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Welcome into Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12, as well as the Drake Toll Show on Westwood One, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern every single day. Thanks for making this show, though, your first listen every single day on the set of Amazon Fire TV's College Football Kickoff with Coach Gary Patterson and Jesse Hawley. That is the Hall of Famer, Gary Patterson, and that segues into today's show. We'll start transfer portal, exposing rivals and company. Then Gary Patterson, the Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, will join the program and talk about his new induction. And finally, a listener called the hotline of the Drake Toll Show this week to talk BYU Cougars. Here's what it sounds like when you, a Big 12 fan, call Westwood One Sports and have a Big 12 topic to discuss. Trust me, it's awesome. If you hit subscribe, I can keep my job. Share this one with a friend today because I'm about to cook. I've been so excited about this show since this was exposed yesterday. I'm shaking. When you go to the water cooler today, when you go meet your buddies for the national championship on Monday, when you're having a conversation this weekend at your favorite college basketball game about the Big 12 and about the SEC and how the SEC is getting special treatment from ESPN, I want you to go further. I want you to take this into account. I'm going to give you actual real examples of how the Southeastern Conference is being boosted, the Big 10 is being boosted, and the Big 12 is being held at bay, and it starts with the BYU tight end Ryder Lyons. This is where it was initially exposed to me. From there, I did further research and found it at multiple Big 12 schools. This is happening. In the high-stakes world of the transfer portal, star inflation or star deflation is something you should be following because there is a Big 12 penalty if you commit to a Big 12 program like BYU or Texas Tech or TCU or Baylor or Arizona or UCF. You are penalized by rivals. What does that even mean? Ryder Lyons, tight end, 4-star, blue-chip recruit at USC, enters the transfer portal as a 4-star per rivals. 4-star at 24/7. Goes in the portal, takes calls from some of the biggest, I'm talking biggest programs in the nation. But despite that, BYU, who I wouldn't consider to be one of the biggest programs in the nation yet, as far as, think about the last 20 years of national champions who are giving this kid a call, of the SEC schools, the Big 10 schools giving this kid a call, like BYU still working toward that. But they beat out those universities and get a commitment from Ryder Lyons, the brother of 5-star quarterback Ryder Lyons. And despite being highly coveted, despite having him as a diamond in the rough, impact rating in the mid 4-star range, 90 to 91 grade. That's mid 4-star, squarely 4-star. He committed to BYU. Maybe he has mission rust. Maybe is limited at USC. So I don't know. Yeah, yesterday in the portal, he was a 4-star, but he committed to BYU. He's been moved to a 3-star. DJ Lagway, Baylor, 5-star kid, number 1 overall recruit out of the state of Texas, Willis High School, commits to Baylor. Has all of the acumen, all of the skills, 5-star, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. We know that. Commits to Baylor, and all of a sudden, he starts dropping stars. He starts dropping points per 24/7 or rivals or ESPN. And a new debate becomes, hey, this is a 4-star kid, maybe a 3-star kid. He's got some of the physical tools, but his portal grades, it's just not good. We're going to bump him. We're going to fluctuate this, bump it down. And scouts decide to now weigh his ceiling based on, he struggled last year. And surely if he's going to lowly Baylor, he can't be that good of a player. Let's bring him down a few notches. Let's bring Baylor's transfer portal ranking down a few notches. Kyler Casper, BYU wide receiver, top 150 national player, 4-star. Yeah, injured a bit, injured here, injured there. But now he's healthy, ready to go. 6'6" frame, squarely a 4-star. If he wants to go to BYU, then shoot, man. He can't be better than a 3-star, right? I just give him a 3-star. Brendan Sorsby, Texas Tech. Number 1 quarterback in the transfer portal class, by the way. Number 1 quarterback, if you ask a lot of these different sites. But then he commits to Texas Tech, a Big 12 school. And it becomes, he was 7-5. Oh, he's staying in the Big 12. Oh, he's not going to the SEC or the Big 10. National portal trackers are now ranking him below SEC backup quarterbacks with fewer starts, rating down his proven production because it happened in a non-elite conference. And you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, but who cares what 24/7 has to say? Who cares what Rivals has to say? None of this matters anyway. It's all made up. None of it matters. Wrong. Because these directly equate to where your strength of schedule lies. Last year, to start the season, the top 20 teams in ESPN strength of schedule, 16 of them were in the SEC. Missouri included in that. They didn't have a singular non-conference game against a bowl team. They played 8 home games. They didn't play a single college football playoff team from the 12-team format the year prior from the SEC. But they were still 20th in the country in strength of schedule. Why? They're in the SEC. Well, how do we determine strength of schedule? We do it because your talent composite. And then strength of schedule turns into strength of record, and strength of record and strength of schedule pair to decide whether or not you go to the college football playoff. And all of those are based not on your wins and losses, but your talent composite. A subjective metric somewhere in the void that tells you how good or bad your football team is, how good or bad your football schedule is, based on what? ESPN's recruit rankings. 24/7's recruit rankings. Rivals recruit rankings. These pay-to-play metrics. They have 66. LSU has 66 4 and 5 stars. They must be the best team in the country. They lost to Houston this year. Really good Houston team, but they had 6 4 or 5 stars versus 66. You pay for these, and what you get is the benefit of strength of schedule. You get a fugazi. It doesn't exist. The SEC's power doesn't exist if you're actually honest about it. But they're not. Call your congressman, man. Call your senators. Call the president. Call somebody. Call Cody Campbell. Somebody has to do something about this because it cannot continue to happen and fester in college football. It's what's killing the Big 12 is they're doing it. They're not doing it right before your eyes. They're secretly doing it. They're saying they won't notice that the guy dropped from a 96 rating or 92 rating to an 88 rating. They won't notice that. But the second they do, it affects the entire machine. It affects the entire wheel. Can you not tell I'm passionate about this? That's the conspiracy theory. That's not a conspiracy you bring to the table and your friends go, this guy's a genius. Yes, you are. Because you listen to Locked On Big 12. Hey, come on in. You got it. Don't worry about it. Coming up, Gary Patterson's a Hall of Famer. Yeah, man. College football Hall of Famer. 23-time Hall of Famer now. He's got a bunch of Hall of Fames, but this is the big one. He joins the show. And then a listener called the Drake Toll Show on Westwood One Sports and asked about the Big 12, specifically BYU and the Big 12 standing on the national scene. And it led to an awesome rant. One of my favorites so far. This, coming up, is Gary Patterson. Is Locked On Big 12. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go during the college football season to put money on the Indiana Hoosiers. That's right. National championship game on tap on Monday, and every college football playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the app. You can ride the favorite. You can take the 8.5-point underdog Miami for an upset, or you can build a parlay around the moments you think will happen in the game. For even bigger winnings, these profit boosts are awesome, and when you win, you get paid instantly. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action all playoff long. It's at FanDuel.com. Get your college football playoff profit boosts every single game day. FanDuel.com is the place to go for your college football profit boost for Miami and Indiana on Monday. That's FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today. Coach Gary Patterson, Amazon Fire TV's college football kickoff. Moments after it was announced to the world he would be a college football Hall of Famer, we got to celebrate him with a surprise party. Also spent last night late into the wee hours of the morning, hanging out with him, his family, his crew. Awesome stuff for the Hall of Famer. Here's what it sounded like when Coach P was given the official honor. I'm your host, Drake Toll, from Locked On Big 12 and the Savannah Bananas organization, and we're coming in hot from the heart of college football country in Dallas, Texas. On set with me, two legends, the former Tar Heel and Dallas Cowboy Jesse Holley and the brand new College Football Hall of Famer, Coach Gary Patterson. Coach, congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome to see you, Jesse. Come on, look at that guy over there.
This guy, man.
He's so humble.
Yeah.
You know, took a bunch. Hey, I've learned a lot here. I mean, you just
He's
keep
learned a little something, something.
Oh, yeah, I did learn something. Yeah, exactly right.
Kurt's saying, Google him. And when you Google him on Tuesday, he'll have national champion next to his name. Shoot, I gotta.
No, he just got just win.
Can we? I think Coach's microphone's kind of fizzling out here. If we got Eric, wherever Eric is. Oh, here he comes. Your microphone's fine, Coach. He's our Hall of Famer. Coach Gary Patterson.
Hey, thank you very much, Allie. Wherever you're at, I'm sure. Hey, this has been a pleasure. Just let me tell you there, Drake Toll, I'm excited for you and your next show. Drake, you do it. I'm going to tell you what, Jesse, I think he can go back and play. I think he's been working out. I think the Cowboys need to get him back in the rotation.
It's all
thanks for the Blues, for heaven's sakes.
Congratulations, Coach. Congratulations,
The
Coach.
College Football Hall of Famer. We couldn't let him go without a big celebration, Coach. It was an honor to share the desk with you. Hear your knowledge all season. Jesse, to you, the player's perspective that you gave was incredible. I'm just the 24-year-old man. To get to soak all this in has been so cool, and we are blessed to have an extremely talented crew.
Yes, it is Coach's Corner, and I've been catching so much grief on this show. I am a Hall of Famer, and by the way, I do know something.
Yes, he does.
Okay, so we just going. So I want to get into this, this last show and talking about playoffs. I'm a proponent for them. Let's move the championship games back, and let's, all the buys over the last 2 years are 1-8. Because they don't get that early game, they don't get that opportunity to get ready to get going. I think having 30 days off is a problem for them. I would tell you this much, and as a coach, I was kind of a skeptic about the playoffs and all the things that happened, but it has been awesome. I think the bowl games show that they are important to do the things they need to do. But the thing that kind of arrived too out of this, which kind of think I kind of like this, is really you have 3 out of the 12 teams kind of had like owners. Mark Cuban kind of came on to light. You have Phil Knight and you have Cody Campbell. I think we're seeing, maybe we're getting closer to the NFL model, no matter what we say and how we do it. But, with Miami and Indiana playing in the final game, in Indiana, which the bottom, nobody ever thought that would ever change. They never talked about football. They only talked about basketball. You got Miami that spent almost 20-some years before they won national championships. 2 teams right here. I think it proves that NIL has made a difference. The portal's made a difference. Now we just need to kind of put our arms around it and find out how we can make it so it's good for everybody from an educational standpoint and all those kind of things. But I mean, wouldn't you guys agree? I mean, this is, besides, the time off, I think it's hurt some teams, but if we could tweak it a little bit, move it up where it's not as long, I think it would help all of college football, because it looks like the college football fans have really liked it.
College football is alive. Those who say it's dead, they're wrong.
Yeah.
They're not watching the right game here. I'll say, and even for Texas Tech, they were a $13 million disparity behind Oregon. So Cody Campbell may be a quasi-owner, but there's still room to grow for a lot of these schools. And another big point, Coach, that you've mentioned a ton, and I'm so glad you have on this show all year long. TCU, their admissions skyrocketed when you started winning football games. Indiana, their admissions have gone from, say, 40,000 applicants to 75,000 applicants. What you do from that, people don't understand. What you do from that is you vet the admissions a lot more closely. You're getting better academics out of your students. Better professors want to go to the school that's more selective with who they bring in. And from there, you become a better university overall. You're bringing in more money on the academic side, and obviously it being the front porch, you're bringing in money on the football side. So the rich get richer if you're Indiana, and they have not been very rich in football. Incredible to see new blood in this sport rising to the top, and I think they'll win the national championship.
As well as the new blood, that you get some of the older blood. We look at like a team like Indiana, right? The average age on Indiana is 23 years old. Wow. You look at a guy like Carson Beck, right? Carson Beck, when he came out of high school, he was in the conversation of the guys that are playing in the National Football League right now. Ruben Bain, when he graduates, he'll be a 25-year-old player, right? 24, 25-year-old player. So you're going to get some of these older players, and I think that's one of the things, Coach, you know this as someone who has to coach 18-year-olds and 17-year-olds. It's a lot different to coach the much more mature. You can put more on their plate, they're much more settled, not as erratic as you would have a 17, 18-year-old as a guy who's 23 years old. So that's something that some people may not like. Of course, the college, the high school seniors may not like because they're kind of getting pushed to the side.
Yep.
But more teams now are putting some of these older men on the roster that's giving you a better brand of football, so that now all the teams that were dominant so far, now you can add an Indiana gets into the mix. And other teams like that, Texas Tech finds its way in the mix because they're able to get older players on the roster.
Well, yeah, and a couple things. So that's what we always said about BYU they're always coming off of missions. You know, they had older players. They were married, more stable. You had a more stable home life. All those things. They weren't thinking about all the crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And as you said, Drake, when it comes to universities, and I always said this, we're not the most important part. Athletics is the porch. It's the most visible. It's what you see. It's not the most important part of the house. And for us to know that there's one more component that can take a university. That's why there's so many smaller universities that are trying to get to Division I football. They see how much it changes. I can tell you one local just outside of Fort Worth, and that's Tarleton State. Building facilities, doing the things they're trying to do, and they're coming to the forefront. They got in the playoffs. They win a couple, 2 or 3 deep, and you rounds deep, and you look at it and go, you can change what they think about you because of that. And for us, at TCU, outside of the state of Texas, California, the West Coast became like the number one application area of the United States, just for the simple reason that LT played there.
Yep.
We played out there in the Mountain West. You went to the Rose Bowl. More people understood what was going to happen and who you were, and then they say, well, let's go check it out. And I think that's big. It's big for people to be able to, universities and students, to be able to get a different idea of what's going on in the world instead of here's where I'm going to go to school because it's an hour down the road.
Man, I know this is a longer show. It's the last one, but the story you always tell about LT walking a mile both ways to practice every day at TCU before the facilities were revamped, and now you're a Hall of Famer. That's awesome.
Well,
isn't it?
Because he did that, I'm a Hall of Famer.
Right.
Let's put great players make great coaches.
That's crazy. So I told you yesterday, I am hosting the Drake Toll Show, Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. Shameless plug. If you listen to the show, you will get a Big 12 angle on national news and storylines. You don't get that anywhere else. Anywhere else. I had a caller this week, and you yourself, you can call the show. When you listen, you can call the show. And this caller asked about BYU and the prospects of the conference moving forward. So here's what it will sound like if nationally we all take over the world together, and you, a BYU fan, a Texas Tech fan, a Baylor fan, a UCF fan, call into Westwood One Sports, the Westwood One Sports app on the Drake Toll Show. Here's how it sounded. In the meantime, Nolan is on the Drake Toll Show. Nolan, what's going on?
Hey, Drake. I want to first of all thank you for talking about BYU. I think you talk about BYU more than anyone save the Sports Nation guys. But deep in the heart of Cougar Nation, representing them, I want to thank you for what you do. And then I want to say I'm excited for BYU football because I think we're one of the first teams to pretty much sign back every player that played last year that's meaningful. And what a time to be a Cougar fan, because we've got AJ tearing it up in basketball. We've got Yegor Demon representing us with the Nets, Puka with the Rams, and then this football team should be a top 10 team next year in the preseason polls. So thank you for repping the Y and singing the praises of the Cougars across the United States.
Love it. Thanks for your call, Nolan. That's Nolan out of San Antonio on the Drake Toll Show. Look, I think the world needs to know there are, in taking the role with Westwood One, having a national radio show, one of my first goals when I sat down and wrote out, okay, what do I want to do, is talk about the teams, the organizations, the storylines that everyone else seems to be missing. And there was an 11-1 team in the Power Four that didn't make the college football playoff this year. We set the precedent that you can be elite, borderline elite, and still miss the playoff. And if people are like, oh, well, BYU would have gotten blown out. Okay, that's hypothetical. And Alabama lost 38-3. Didn't mean they didn't deserve to be in the postseason. They won a game in the playoff against the SEC. But Yeah, I think there are underrepresented colleges, universities, storylines like BYU going 11-1, the Cougars having a really good go at it with their players returning to the roster. Bear Bachmeier being one of them, and they're the most underrated team in college football in the last 6 years. 4 of those 6 years they've finished in the top 25. They've never began the season in the AP top 25 in that 6-year run, though. So they continue to win, and they get no respect for it in the offseason. More people should be looking at BYU as an elite athletic department because of the investment they're making. And A.J. DeMonts is another example of that. The number 1 player in the country in basketball that is leading a basketball team that could win multiple games, make it to the Final Four, win a national championship. They have those capabilities in March Madness, those BYU Cougars. I'll be on site, actually. Headed to Utah, the Utah Valley, for BYU Arizona. Big game in college basketball here in a few weeks. Nolan, thanks for your call. Great segue into college football and the most underpaid coach in the entire country, Curt Cignetti. This is the Drake Toll Show. Joe Pompliano.
Every team, every player.
Sorry. I see what I did there. I see what I did there. Joe Pompliano. Curt Cignetti will soon sign a new contract with Indiana that pays him at least $12.5 million per year. But after digging into the numbers, Cignetti might still be the most undervalued coach in college football. I love this. Joe Pomp does a really good job. Talks a lot about the Savannah Bananas and how the finances of the organization work. He does a great job. He says that Cignetti, we all know what he's done at Indiana. It's remarkable. Turned a perennial cellar dweller into a national championship favorite in 2 seasons. Listen to this. It has transformed IU's athletic department because before 2025 kicked off, ticket revenue surpassed $13 million before the season even kicked off. Indiana announced a $50 million stadium naming rights deal. So they made $13 million on tickets, $50 million on the stadium name. Fundraising at a record high. Billionaire IU alum Mark Cuban is donating to Indiana for the first time ever. Pomp says, but that's the obvious stuff. Cignetti's real impact comes in admissions. Listen to these numbers. The marketing vehicle for the University IU football. 24 million people watching the Rose Bowl, 18 million watching the Big Ten Championship. It's the most in a championship game in 5 or 6 years. More than 2 million people watched a 3-hour commercial about the show when College Game Day visited Indiana's campus. This publicity, that marketing, and I can tell you as someone who works for the Savannah Bananas, one of the best marketing mogul organizations in America, that marketing is invaluable. There's not a price tag you can put on what that does for your university. You cannot quantify accurately how much Indiana is winning right now by winning in football. Hundreds of millions of dollars in publicity, marketing, PR alone. Listen to these numbers. Here's what college football does for you. May I? Hello, NC State. Hello, Boston College. Hello, Cincinnati. And hi, auf Wiedersehen. Oregon State, UCLA, Rutgers. Any of you could have been Indiana. Any of you could fit the mold of an Indiana who sucked for a long time and now they're good. And this is what happens. Indiana sets a school record for enrollment. 10,000 freshmen. 73,000 applications. In 2019, Indiana was at 44,000 applications. They were at 54,000 when Curt Cignetti was hired. Immediately started winning football games. Jumped to 67,000. Now 73,000 people have applied to go to Indiana because kids want to watch good football. And IU, since so many students are applying, and they can only admit a certain number, they're leveraging by rotating the composition of their student body toward out of state and being more selective academically. 50% of their enrollment comes from out of state. And listen to this, important distinction, out-of-state students pay $30,000 more in annual tuition. $12,000 for those from Indiana, $42,000 for non-residents. They are raking in the money. Those out-of-state students are worth $60 million more to Indiana than their in-state counterparts. Median high school GPA of 3.94, the highest in their history. And Pomp nails it here. Better sports means more applicants, which means better students, which means higher rankings. Higher rankings lead to more applicants and eventually higher tuition revenues. IU, because they're winning in football, can become an academic juggernaut? Yes. Yes. That's the beauty of what college sports is doing right now. But they're also doing it in one of the most relentlessly resourceful ways. Miami. They have 5 5-star players, 40 4-star players. Ole Miss, you watched those two teams play last night. 3 5-star players, 33 4-star players. Fewer than Miami, no doubt. Oregon blows everybody out of the water. 6 players on their roster that are 5 stars. 52 players are 4 stars. I've told you, LSU, 66 combined 4 or 5 stars. The Indiana Hoosiers, hold on to this. The Indiana Hoosiers have 0 5-star players, 7 4-star players. I just told you NC State. I just told you Cincinnati. I just told you UCLA. You can do this. If Indiana can do it, you can do it. When you go to work today, when you're at Pilates with Lane Kiffin, when you're in the donut shop because you're a teacher and you're off on Fridays because you teach at the private school and you're getting donuts, meeting a friend, catching up over coffee, and they say, what do you think about sports? You tell them this. Miami, 45 blue chip recruits. Oregon, 58 blue chip recruits. Indiana, 7. That Indiana team just beat Alabama 38-3. Kurt Cignetti is firing coaches across the country because universities want what Kurt Cignetti has. They play tonight against Oregon in a rematch with a shot at a national championship on the line. And what's crazier is the changing of the guard is becoming more and more aggressive. Here are team rankings per On3. Team rankings of juggernauts in college football in the transfer portal so far. Number 32 in transfer portal recruitment, Texas. At 38, Oregon. 40th, Georgia. 50th, Notre Dame. 51st in transfer portal recruiting with 0 transfers in, 8 transfers out, Miami. They're in the national championship. 56th in America in the transfer portal, Ohio State. 22 players have left the program. Alabama ranks 60th. The 60th net portal class right now in all of college football, the Alabama Crimson Tide. Indiana is certainly building it off the transfer portal. Half their starters transferred in, but Kurt Cignetti came in 2 years ago. Of course, he had plenty of players transfer in with him. 7 4-star players, 0 5-star players, and they're dominating everyone. And I think they'll dominate again tonight against Oregon. Will they win? What does domination mean? Maybe it means 20-13. But suffocating Oregon, given the defense of Indiana, is the best still alive in the college football playoff. And Miami, that takes nothing away. It detracts nothing from Miami because of how good Miami is on that side of the football. But IU, a 70% chance to win the game. Yesterday, you know what I did? I'm going to do this. I get a lot of, I get comments sometimes, like, hey, I've been listening to the Westwood One lineup, hearing a lot of sports betting talk. And there are the next show is You Better You Bet, right? But betting is going to be talked about for sure. I try to stay away from it, and not because I don't do it. I'm constantly sports betting, but because I know there are other shows that are going to give that to you at the network, and I give them their flowers. But listen to this from last night. Listen to this. I had Ole Miss $100 in their money line. I didn't hit. I also took Ole Miss live. Didn't hit. Then I took Ole Miss live again. Didn't hit. Bad night. And worse than that, I always try to hedge a little bit. Like, hey, let's do, if I'm going to put $100 on somebody's money line, let me put a home run parlay on something else. That home run was this. Listen. Carson Beck, 1 or more rushing touchdowns. Cash happened right at the end of the game. To win the game, Miami, cash happened. And under in total points, Ole Miss, 24.5. They scored 27. That was $25 to win 206. So I dropped off the face of the earth in betting last night. I'm going somewhere with this. But I made a genius decision to put like 6 units on Indiana to win the national championship. And I took it at 3 p.m. yesterday. Why? Because they were plus 125. We're talking about one of the most dominant teams that college football has seen since 2019 LSU. One of the most dominant teams that we've seen in this sport's history, namely in the modern era. 14-0 on a march to 16-0, the first 16-0 team in college football history. I believe they'll win tonight. I believe that they will win me much money, thank you, on that bet. Because Indiana is a buzzsaw, a juggernaut, a 38-3 against Alabama, and I believe they'll prove it again against Oregon, and they're doing it with less talent per Rivals or 24/7 or however you want to rank these kids. Those rankings are stupid. They're the biggest losers. They're the idiots of the day. They give you a star based on who's recruiting. Well, Georgia's in the mix, so give them another star. Indiana doesn't get that liberty. BYU doesn't get that liberty. They just win football games. 310-840-4910. Call or text the Drake Toll Show. Westwood One Sports, Westwood One Sports app. Alex Dono is the Miami Hurricanes expert, and his team that he covers is going to the national championship. That's up next on the Drake Toll Show. Wasn't that wholesome? Oh, that's great. I love that so much. Let's come back tomorrow. Let's come back tonight, actually, Big 12 Squad Show, and hang out with you. This has been, it always will be, Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.